Good morning, Talawanda. Today is Wednesday, March 28th, 2018.
Are you interested in the summer CCP at Miami Hamilton? Don't forget the deadline to apply is April 1st. See your counselor if you have any questions.
Lost and found is overflowing again. All unclaimed items will be taken to the Oxford Resource Center by next Tuesday. Come to the main office and see if you have any lost items.
There are lifeguard applications for the country club in the office. Old lifeguards will need to fill out a new application. The applications will be collected in 2 weeks.
Birthdays for today. Nika Duvall turns 15 and Lindsay Armentrout turns 18.
And now for world news and then Patty G with sports.
The jackpot for the Mega Millions is now $502 million.
The lacrosse team beat Taylor last night at the field by a score of 2-1. Their next game is April 4th against Madeira. And the softball team lost their second game of the year yesterday at home to Hamilton by a score of 11-1. Their record falls to 0-2 on the season. That's sports. I'm Patrick Eschen. We conclude today with a Channel 85 special report. Congressional Medal of Honor recipient and Tennessee school counselor Molly Hudgens has been considered a hero by many. Locked in a room with an armed student for 45 minutes, she was able to get them to surrender their weapon in a middle school where they planned to attack students. In her first televised interview since the incident a little over 2 years ago, Mrs. Hudgens speaks to me about her experience at Talawanda, the solutions to our currently polarized climate of school safety, and reveals to the public for the first time what it was like to be in that room for those critical 45 minutes. So, Mrs. Hudgens, thank you so much for taking the time today to be with us.
You're welcome.
My first question is, what brought you here to Talawanda? What sort of things have you been able to do today, and what do you think of this place?
Well, first of all, you have a beautiful school. From the moment I came in, people have been so friendly, and the building itself is just very extraordinary. My school still has tile from 1979, so it's a beautiful place. I actually came today to surprise Mr. Heath Kelly, one of your social studies teachers. I met him this summer at the Freedoms Foundation at Valley Forge in Pennsylvania. He was there for a seminar that we attended on the War on Terror. And so this week is my spring break at school, and so I decided I wanted to try to find a teacher to surprise. And so since Mr. York attended the seminar as well, I reached out to him and said, do you think Mr. Kelly would be upset if I came in to teach his classes for him? And he said, I don't think he would mind at all. So that's what led me here. This is actually the first time I've ever been to Oxford or to this area. So
so the Medal of Honor, I see you're wearing it right now. What was it like to receive that?
I'm not really sure there are words that probably can describe what that was like. It was unexpected to even be recognized as a finalist, to even think there would be an opportunity, but to become a recipient was something I could have never imagined, and it still is something that overwhelms me every time I think about it.
So that we were reading today about you and that 45 minutes with that student, you were trying to get them to surrender the gun and everything. What was running through your head during that time?
I think the most important thing was thinking that I wanted everybody to go home. I wanted the student himself to be safe. I wanted the rest of our staff, our students, to be safe. And so my goal was a peaceful resolution. I wasn't sure what that would look like, what kind of outcome that would have. So I think probably what was running through my mind was just to stay calm, to try to meet him where he was, and to try to get him to ultimately turn over the gun without self-harm or harm to anyone else. And that was my goal.
Yeah. So with recent events, going off that, I mean, Florida, now Maryland, Sandy Hook, all these events that we're listing, what advice do you give to keeping students safe in terms of, in large schools?
That's a great question. I just shared with the last class today, the best first line of defense your school has is your students. We try to teach our students to recognize other kids who might be in crisis, who might be struggling, and to make sure that adults are aware of that situation. They aren't always able to intervene as much as we would like for them to, but it's recognition first that there are kids who may have an issue, may be struggling, and may need help, and finding resources available to them before an incident occurs or something happens that causes a problem. Mm-hmm. So my best advice is to pay attention to those around you. If you see someone who seems to be going through a hard time, or they alter their normal behaviors, let an adult know, point that out to someone. And it's important too that students know that they have someone in their school that they can talk to. So I encourage your staff, and we'll encourage your staff today too, to recognize those kids. Look for kids who aren't necessarily connected to someone, who might need just some encouragement, and reach out to them.
So for these kids, you obviously don't want to create a whole lot of attention towards them, because, you know, we do not ever know. And maybe this is somebody that could do something bad, or maybe this is something that is very temporary and they'll get out of it.
Right.
So how do you create a situation where you want to give the student attention, but you don't necessarily want to do it in front of a large group of people?
I believe that talking to kids privately is the secret to that. I have the opportunity every year to meet with my students individually, so they all know that they're going to meet with me. They just don't know necessarily when. Mm-hmm. And it gives me an opportunity to get to know them as people a little bit. And just sometimes making that initial connection will bring them back later if they are going through something that's concerning, or if they have questions about something, or just if they feel as if something they're going through is not something they can discuss with a family member or another adult. I think it just kind of gives them that opportunity to make a connection, so that if there is an issue later, they can come back and talk again.
You were a teacher before you became a therapist and a counselor. Yes. So in the context of a classroom, there's a lot going on, there's plenty of things. If you were in this 45-minute situation as a teacher, what sort of different steps would you be taking?
That's a great question, because I had the opportunity to be in a setting where there's nobody present but me and this child. Mm-hmm. I think that the first thing I would try to do as a teacher is to remain as calm as possible and to evacuate the room. If the child is willing to stay there with an adult and release the other students, then you already have an opportunity to then work with that child through whatever they're experiencing. Ultimately, the goal would be for them to relinquish whatever weapon they might have, and to leave with you peacefully. So I think staying calm, convincing the other students to stay calm, and evacuating them if possible would be the steps I would have taken had this happened in a classroom.
Mm-hmm. For students that maybe struggle with anxiety about this issue, they don't want to come to school because they're afraid something's going to happen, or, you know, possibly they've experienced it themselves in their family lives or something like that. Mm-hmm. What sort of advice do you give students who are struggling with this anxiety right now? How can they overcome that?
I always encourage them to come and talk to me. I tell them there's a lot of scary things going on in the world, and sometimes we just need to run that through another person. We need to have that filtered for us and have an opportunity to hear somebody else explain what options we have for safety. Mm-hmm. We met with all of our students after the shootings that took place in Kentucky and also in Parkland, Florida, and said, we want you to know a little bit about our crisis plan. We talked to them about what we practice, about the drills that we practice, why those are in place, wow. And we also let them know that there are parts of the crisis plan that we will never reveal to them, but that we practice when school is not in session, and that we perfect, so that if there is an incident, we have those things in place. And we allowed our SRO to be part of that. He is very much visible in our building, eats lunch with our students. I think those things help give them a little bit more of a sense of security as well.
Awesome. So you were quoted saying, the safety of our school is a responsibility. What does that mean for students? What does that mean for teachers? What does that mean for administration?
Well, everybody who's on a school campus is responsible for protecting not only their own lives, but the lives of those around them. And so I tell our students every year at my school, you are obligated to stand in the gap for other people. Mm-hmm. If there is something that's going on that is not right, you have got to let someone know. And I think from an administrative perspective, you have to have administrators that are willing to listen to students, who allow them to be stakeholders in their school and to be part of that. We have students who are part of our crisis team. We want their input. We ask them about that. I think it's crucial for them to feel that they are connected to it as well. And staff, can have questions too. Sometimes I think that they struggle with knowing their place when things like these incidents happen. So I think it's a combination of making sure that there is clear communication amongst everyone.
So I guess the last thing I should ask you is this problem solvable in America? Will we have fully safe schools one day?
That's a great question. I would like to say the answer to that is yes, as long as everybody's committed to doing that. There's been a lot of focus in the past few weeks about gun control or metal detectors or what to do, and everybody wants some kind of answer, but I really feel like the best place for us to start is with our students. We need to have faculty members who are available to talk to them so that if there are kids who are frustrated or angry or experiencing things that we don't understand, that they have a place to come and talk to someone. And so I think as long as we continue to promote counseling efforts in schools, not just necessarily school counselors, but also mental health professionals, then I think that, yes, I think eventually we can find students when they're young enough to exhibit symptoms that seem unusual for their age group, and we can then find resources to intervene so that they don't ever become violent or don't ever become an offender.